Welcome back to part 2 of our series for post-go-live dips in production. What are some of the reasons and what you can do to try to prevent them in the future. So this is part 2. Hopefully you've been able to see part 1 and review part 1, where we went over organizations and individuals not understanding the roles and their roles and responsibilities within a project, within a process, within a program. So now we are going to talk about another reason that you typically see productivity dipping after a go-live. And that is the organization, the users, the business, not understanding the integration into other areas. The integration points when you're focusing on a process and you have that handoff from one area to the other, one department to the other, one individual to the other. When you have those handoffs, not everyone understands the how exactly, what is it supposed to look like when they hand it off? How exactly are they supposed to hand it off? They don't understand those integration points. And typically within a project, what happens is individuals, the project team, the individual teams that make up the project, they don't spend enough time with each other to understand and talk about and vet through an entire process from A to Z. So when they don't spend time going through that process from A to Z, they typically kind of find out after the fact at go live. They figured out that we really didn't have it figured out, or we forgot about that, or we didn't think about that. And those are the types of things that happen after a go live. You don't find out about these things until then. And so you see productivity dip because now you have to slow down the process. Now you have to slow down and figure out, start asking questions, start getting people involved, your IT departments, your program managers, your consultants. You got to start bringing everybody back in. Sometimes you have to have discussions again, meetings again on how do we want to handle this and what does that do? That slows down your productivity. That allows people not to stay at their desk and get things done the way that they want to get things done, the way that they need to get things done. They're not able to do that because we're trying to figure out how we're going to make this happen. Or we're trying to figure out how we can make it better because it's not working right now. And right after go live, guys, is not the time for that. You should have already had this figured out ahead of time. So what can you do about it? How can you fix this? Because you can fix it. You can fix this. So what do? What we do is you schedule time within your project to specifically focus on these integration points, to specifically focus on integration processes, integration discussions. So you specifically focus during the project on all phases, your blueprint phase, your testing phase, and your training phase. So let's start first with your blueprinting phase. Your blueprinting phase, when you're going through the process, you should not talk about that process. If it's a process that spans across multiple areas, you should not be talking only to your group about that process and what your piece of that process is. You should be talking to everybody that's affected by the process. You should be talking to in the group, okay? So those discussions must be had with everybody that is affected by the process. You work out those integration points, you work out those discussions, you work out those handoffs. So you specifically schedule time within your blueprint phase of your project for your integration workshops. Those integration workshops will then cover the processes that span across multiple areas. Next, your testing phase. Your testing phase should have integration testing. Integration testing is testing a process from A to Z, from beginning to end. It's testing those handoffs from one area to the next, to the next, to the next, so that when you're finished with your testing phase, you have signed off on your test scripts that include these processes that span across multiple areas. So again, you have sign off. Everybody knows what it's supposed to look like. Everybody agrees that's how it's going to work. And everyone's happy. Then you move into the training phase, the last prep phase before you go live. And when you're training on this specific process that spans across multiple areas, never, ever, ever should you train a process and only train that specific group specifically on what they are responsible for. What this does is this causes people to work in silos when you only teach them a piece of the process. They need to understand the process from beginning to end. And so you train it to them that way. When you train it to them that way and they learn it that way, then they understand how they fit into the big picture. They understand how they're supposed to hand things off. They understand how things are supposed to be handed to them. They know the who, they know the what, they know the how. And there's no questions at this point. If there's questions at this point, it's because something either wasn't brought up or because a new exception has arose. And we know that's going to happen, and those are the things that we want to be dealing with. Not things on how do I do this process that I've always done. Okay? So schedule time within your projects to deal with these integration points. These integration points are one of the number one reasons that we have failure breakdowns and productivity dips after go live. It's because people don't understand how to work with each other, how to hand data off to each other, who is supposed to do what, and we typically are spinning our wheels after the fact, figuring out what to do. So your next project, I want you to schedule time into your blueprint phase, into your training phase, testing phase, and lastly, into your training phase. Get the entire group together to talk about that process, not just your individual group that you're responsible for. So I hope this was helpful. This is one of 4 great tips that highlight why your productivity dips after go live and what you can do about it. What you can do about it. That's huge. What you can do about it, because you can do something about it. Okay? So, this ends part 2. I want you to stay here. Look for part 3, where I share another tip that can help you prevent a dip after go live. Hope this was helpful. Feel free to like, comment, and share, and we'll be talking soon. Thanks.